Luxury has always fascinated people. From sparkling diamonds to sleek sports cars, there's something about owning the rare, the exclusive, and the expensive that makes human beings reach for their wallets. But perhaps no industry captures this obsession better than luxury fashion, and specifically, luxury handbags. We're talking about Hermès Birkins, Chanel flaps, Louis Vuitton Speedies, bags that can cost as much as a brand new car or even a down payment on a house. The question is simple. Why would anyone pay thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars, for a bag? The answer takes us deep into the psychology of status, the history of fashion, and one of the most brilliantly constructed business models on the planet. Let's start with one of the most famous examples, the Hermès Birkin bag. This is not just a handbag, it's a cultural phenomenon. Prices for Birkins start at around $10,000 and can easily climb into six figures depending on the materials, size, and rarity. In 2017, a diamond-encrusted Himalayan Birkin made of crocodile skin sold for over $380,000 at auction in Hong Kong. That's more than the cost of a Rolls-Royce. But here's the kicker. You can't just walk into an Hermès store and buy one. Birkins are deliberately scarce. Customers often have to spend years cultivating a relationship with a sales associate, buying other products first before they are even offered the chance to purchase one. In other words, Hermès has turned the Birkin into not just a product, but a privilege. This strategy highlights one of the core principles of the luxury business: exclusivity. Luxury brands thrive not on mass accessibility, but on scarcity. The fewer people who can get their hands on something, the more valuable it becomes. It's the exact opposite of fast fashion, which floods the market with endless supply. Think about it. If everyone could buy a Birkin bag tomorrow for $200, it would lose all of its appeal. Scarcity drives desire, and desire drives price. But exclusivity alone doesn't explain why someone would fork over the equivalent of a year's rent for a handbag. For that, we have to dig into the psychology of status. Human beings are wired to signal wealth, power, and taste through the things we own. In ancient societies, it might have been rare jewels, silk, or spices. In the modern world, it's designer logos and luxury craftsmanship. Carrying a Chanel bag or a Louis Vuitton tote is more than just practical. It's a status symbol. It tells the world you belong to a certain class, that you have access, taste, and money. And this signaling works. Studies in behavioral economics have shown that people perceive others carrying luxury items as more successful, attractive, and even trustworthy. One famous experiment found that when a man approached women wearing a plain shirt, he was far less likely to get positive responses than when he wore a shirt with a designer logo. The brand acted as a shortcut to status. Now apply that logic to handbags, which are far more visible and iconic. A luxury bag is like carrying your resume, your bank account, and your social standing all in one accessory. But here's where things get even more interesting. Luxury handbags don't just hold value, they often increase in value. The Birkin bag, for example, has consistently outperformed both gold and the S&P 500 in terms of long-term investment returns. A study by Bag Hunter, a luxury resale platform, found that between 1980 and 2015, the average Birkin increased in value by over 500%, with steady annual growth of around 14%. Try getting that kind of return from the stock market. This financial angle has made luxury bags not just fashion statements, but actual investment vehicles. Wealthy collectors buy them the way others buy art or rare wines. And when a market turns an accessory into an asset class, demand only grows stronger. This brings us to another secret of the luxury business, the resale market. Today, platforms like The RealReal, Vestiaire Collective, and Fashionphile have turned secondhand luxury into a multi-billion-dollar industry. Bags that once sat in closets are now being traded like stocks, their prices tracked and analyzed. In fact, in 2023, the luxury resale market was valued at over $40 billion globally, and it's growing faster than the primary luxury market itself. For buyers, this makes a $10,000 handbag easier to justify. You're not just buying a fashion accessory, you're buying an appreciating asset. Of course, none of this would work without the masterful branding and storytelling behind luxury companies. Louis Vuitton, for instance, is not just selling leather goods, it's selling the legacy of a 19th century Parisian trunk maker. Chanel isn't just a fashion house, it's the legacy of Coco Chanel, a pioneer of modern women's style. These stories create emotional connections, making customers feel like they are buying a piece of history, not just a product. It's no coincidence that luxury brands often align themselves with art, culture, and celebrity. When you see Beyoncé carrying a Birkin or Rihanna rocking a Dior, it reinforces the idea that these bags are more than fashion, they're cultural currency. Then there's the craftsmanship factor. Luxury brands justify their sky-high prices by emphasizing the artistry behind their products. A Birkin, for example, is handmade by a single artisan in France, a process that can take 40 hours or more. Chanel's classic flat bag goes through 180 different stages of production. These details matter because they create a narrative of perfection, skill, and rarity. Even if the cost of materials doesn't justify the price tag, the perception of craftsmanship does. Consumers aren't just paying for leather and hardware, they're paying for artistry and heritage. Yet, the luxury business is not without its contradictions. On one hand, it thrives on exclusivity and scarcity. On the other, it has to keep growing to satisfy shareholders. This tension has led some brands to expand aggressively into new markets, especially in Asia. In China, for instance, luxury consumption has skyrocketed. By 2025, it's estimated that Chinese consumers will account for nearly 40% of all global luxury sales. That's why brands are opening flagship stores in Beijing, Shanghai, and Hong Kong, and why celebrity endorsements are increasingly aimed at Asian audiences. At the same time, luxury brands are tapping into younger generations. Millennials and Gen Z are driving much of the current growth in luxury, with many willing to spend heavily on handbags, even if it means cutting back elsewhere. A report from Bain & Company found that Gen Z is entering the luxury market 3 to 5 years earlier than previous generations, often making their first purchases in their early 20s. For them, a Louis Vuitton bag isn't just an accessory. It's an Instagram statement, a way to broadcast their identity to the world. Social media has amplified this effect dramatically. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok have turned luxury bags into viral status symbols. The hashtag Birkin has millions of views, with influencers unboxing their purchases and flaunting their collections. Luxury brands have cleverly leaned into this, creating limited drops and collaborations that fuel hype, much like sneaker culture. Just as people line up for the latest Jordans, they now line up or join waitlists for the latest Dior saddlebag or Prada re-edition. But perhaps the most fascinating thing about the business of luxury is how irrational it all seems. From a purely practical standpoint, no handbag is worth $10,000. The materials don't cost anywhere near that much. The function, a bag to carry your belongings, can be fulfilled by a $50 tote. And yet, the luxury bag industry is worth over $70 billion a year and growing. Why? Because luxury is not about practicality. It's about psychology. It's about identity, aspiration, and the eternal human desire to stand out. This irrationality is precisely what makes luxury so resilient. Even during economic downturns, luxury brands often thrive. After the 2008 financial crisis, companies like Hermès and Louis Vuitton bounced back faster than many industries. Why? Because the ultra-rich remain ultra-rich. And for them, luxury is not a splurge, but a lifestyle. Meanwhile, aspirational buyers, middle-class consumers stretching their budgets for a taste of luxury, often keep demand alive, seeing a designer bag as a reward or milestone purchase. In the end, the business of luxury proves one thing. Value is not about function, it's about perception. A luxury bag is not worth thousands because of the leather, the stitching, or the gold-plated clasp. It's worth thousands because enough people believe it is. And as long as humans crave status, beauty, and belonging, luxury bags will remain one of the most powerful and profitable symbols of wealth in the world. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more amazing videos. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.